Hello, good afternoon. You are watching the Technology Magazine show, brought to you by Technology Magazine, AI Magazine, Mobile Magazine, Data Center Magazine, and BizClik. My name is Josephine Warbank, and we're here to bring you all the latest news, analysis, and opinions from the world of technology every month. Joining me today is one of our editors for AI and Technology, George Hopkin. Hi, George. You well?
Hello, Joseph. I'm fine, thank you. Thank you very much indeed for having me.
Great to have you with us. So just to start things off, I want to take a moment to remind the audience that they can also say hello by posting in the comments section below here on LinkedIn. And we also wanted to remind everyone to make sure you go vote in our LinkedIn poll before we discuss in the second half of the show. So George, could you share with us what the topic of the poll is this week?
I can. So we caught wind of a recent report that revealed that 62% of people would be interested in visiting a virtual sports stadium to watch a sporting event, maybe like the World Cup that's going on at the moment. And with that in mind, we asked people what tech-enabled viewing experience would make you buy tickets for a future World Cup held in a virtual environment. The options we're giving people are viewing in the metaverse, viewing with augmented reality, or just faster streaming services. Let's see what they've got to say. We've compelled them to give an answer. There's no don't want anything there. So let's see what they've got to say.
It's really interesting. I know a lot of reports have shown how many people are investing in an upgraded mobile package purely to watch the World Cup faster and more reliably. So yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what kind of technologies our viewers are interested in. But first, just to kick things off, we wanted to have a rundown of the latest magazines that have hit our virtual shelves this month. So I'll kick things off with Data Center Magazine, which was released at the start of December. It was a really special issue for me, actually, personally. It was one that I'm really proud to see released because a lot of the features were a culmination of a recent trip that I took to Barcelona, where I was really kindly hosted by Schneider Electric, and it was really exciting. It's one of those fantastic opportunities to see data centers and the work that they do in practice, because I got the opportunity to speak to the CIO of the Sagrada Familia about the incredible work they're doing right now to complete the site, which obviously Gaudi wasn't able to finish himself, and it's all thanks to the on-site data center that is really bizarrely just tucked away underneath. You can see the art itself and then the data center. It's absolutely bizarre how close, in such close proximity. And I also got to speak to Elliot Churek and Joe Kramer, two of the leading execs driving Schneider's global modular data center strategies. And they shared their insights into how modular data centers are helping to bring about the edge-enabled 5G future that is, impacting so many global industries. So George, could you tell me more about the highlights from the latest technology and AI magazines?
I can, and I think our regular video disruption is coming from my end, but I'm gonna carry on. So we've been talking about 5G there. Marcus Law, the editor of Technology Magazine, this month is looking at all things 6G in this month's magazine. That's 6G, not 5G. 6G is 100 times faster than 5G, and 5G was already a huge advance on the previous technology, and that was the first to give there's as close to zero lag as makes no 5G.
I think we might be struggling with George there, but I can jump on. So I know in the magazine, Marcus wrote about how
that allow businesses to.
No, he's gone. Sorry about that. So Marcus wrote about how IT asset management is helping organizations to keep track of hardware and make sure that the assets are either earning their keep or being removed from company expenses. So, and in this month's issue, George wrote about digital twins, machine. Oh, we have George back. Do you want to? Do you want to summarize yourself? Can you hear me? Okay.
We'll keep going. I can hear you, Joseph. I can hear you. As we found again, the live TV catches us out again. But yeah, I wrote about digital twins in this month's magazine and NLP in the metaverse. So that's natural language processing. and how that's going to be required. There's no ifs or buts. NLP will be required for the metaverse because the metaverse will demand huge amounts of computing power to be usable. Do you want to talk about AI Magazine, Jose? Is my connection still strong enough for me to carry on with AI Magazine?
You carry on with AI Magazine. I can still got you on the line.
I'll carry on with AI Magazine. Fantastic. Yeah, we're still going. Yeah. So in AI Magazine, again, Marcus, he takes a look at the future of search and how artificial intelligence is going to change that, just as it does everything that it touches. Elsewhere in the magazine, I write about the healthcare industry, making use of the Internet of Things to track patient health live in the home or wherever the patients may be, providing they're wearing a wearable. I've also written about chatbots, but the research that I did for that took place before last week's release of OpenAI's ChatGPT. So I've written about that on the website, and I do urge everyone to go and take a look at ChatGPT. But who am I kidding? You already know about it, I imagine. It's taken Internet by storm. But yeah, we'll talk a little bit about that later. If my connection remains strong.
No worries. Thank you, George. It's really, really interesting stuff. It's been, fantastic issue for AI in particular. It's really interesting. And now I'm delighted to be able to welcome a guest speaker to our virtual stage. Michael Langer is the Chief Product Officer of Radiflow, a leading provider of industrial cybersecurity solutions. Michael has over 2 decades worth of experience in the cybersecurity sphere after having served in senior positions in an elite cybersecurity technology unit within the Israeli Defense Forces. He's had a fascinating career and he has some exceptional insights into the current state of global cybersecurity strategies. So without further ado, I'm delighted to welcome Michael to the stage.
Hello, Josephine.
Hi, Michael. Great to have you join us. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Not at all. So could you start by telling me a bit more about your current role with Radiflow and the services that Radiflow provides?
Yeah, of course. So as you mentioned, Radiflow is in the business of providing OT cybersecurity solutions. And actually, we believe in a risk-driven approach, and we are providing solutions in threat monitoring, risk management to the critical infrastructures and actually the manufacturing and all the industrial environment. In terms of my role in Radio within the company, so I'm, as I mentioned, Chief Product Officer. So it's mainly responsibility for leading product roadmap, maintain the strategy of product portfolio, and as well as leading the technical engineering department as well. So it's kind of dual-headed, but this allows me to get the inputs from the customers directly into product roadmap, and it's much more easier for taking this into the real life, into real implementations.
Fantastic, thank you. And we touched on it just in your bio, but could you tell me more about your career with the Israeli Defense Forces? Because it's a really fascinating.
Yeah, okay. Definitely, the career was over 20 years, really fascinating. I have retired as a lieutenant colonel actually in 2018. So in Radiflow for 4 years, and before holds few positions. The latest was the cloud security strategy and the architect within actually to secure private clouds initiatives within Israel Defense Forces. And beforehand, I was very lucky to establish the chief of staff level cybersecurity incident response team for actually defend and analyze and protect the networks from state-sponsored threats and of all military networks related to the military functionality, operational functions for IDF.
Fantastic. And sorry, we're using you as a bit of a kind of peek behind the curtain, as it were, but how does the military approach cybersecurity generally? Is it quite pioneering in its approach, or does it kind of tend to follow existing advancements? What do you think?
So I think it's mixed. So in general, the military is approaching cybersecurity in a very structured way. So establishing policies and methodology and actually trying to segregate itself, and also developing very state-of-the-art innovative products that cannot be found in the private sector. From last years, with progress of also cyber industry, cybersecurity industry, we want to take the best also from the private sector, and don't want to invent too much from by ourselves. So actually to take advantage of the latest advancements in cloud security, in authentication products and other stuff. Of course, commercial off-the-shelf greatest products, firewalls, etc., to implement within its networks, within military networks. And only in that case that this is something unique, or whether you're talking about the weapon systems, you want to take and take the brightest minds that you have at your disposal, actually, and we're very lucky to have this, and to develop the additional value add to the cybersecurity approach in military itself.
That's really interesting, thank you. And from a personal perspective, what was your favorite thing about working for the military in these initiatives?
So actually, this is the combination of the very good people working around you, indeed brightest minds in the that you have in cybersecurity area, and the real very fast pace in handling all this stuff. So to implement, to defend, to actually tackle all these threats, and to actually see the like they said, to see the adversaries in front of you, and actually to follow and to understand what they're doing, and give the appropriate response on your side.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And I suppose, yeah, do you have anything else, George, that you'd like to add on that note?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So, Michael, you said about when we're talking about state-sponsored cybersecurity here, defense and offense, and without naming any names, I mean, what kind of computing power does a nation state have at its disposal? Is it just a phenomenal? Is it a Google plus a Meta plus something else, or are they running off 5 servers in someone's back bedroom?
So actually, state-sponsor actors in various groups and various sectors, they have different levels, but eventually they have I can't say an unlimited budget, but very great resources on their disposal to develop and use the intelligence they're collecting to prepare the attack. And actually, we can see it in latest developments. So it doesn't open source intelligence and the attacks on the critical infrastructures from allegedly state-sponsored actors in Ukraine and other stuff. We have in Israel attack on a few I think a year ago on water infrastructure, water management infrastructure from some Iranian state-sponsored actors. So all that we can see. So and that's going and developing, and it's very sophisticated actors. And as well, we can see also more like organized crimes, which is also the kind of threat not only to like private enterprises, but to the government infrastructure critical as well. So we all remember the during COVID, the ransomware for health care facilities and all that stuff. So it's basically leveraging the knowledge that you can acquire, and it's various levels of knowledge to take advantage of the weak links in the chain of cybersecurity as well. Definitely.
And what are the weakest links generally? I mean, if you've got billions of dollars worth of technology for your defense and for your offense, but somebody just uses a very bad password that can be guessed or clicks on a phishing link in an email, I mean, all of a sudden those billions mean nothing. Is that the case? Does that sound accurate?
Yeah, it's partially accurate, because you're actually building your defenses, and you should build your defenses in terms of in multiple layers. So eventually, that even if someone, just clicking the phishing email, and the adversary, got your password for your station or for your account, actually you should build this cybersecurity not in terms that this adversary will be able to to escalate and to propagate within your network, or as an enterprise or as a military, it doesn't matter. So that's the concept that should be taken by all cybersecurity experts, and actually that's what we are doing as a defenders. Of course, if eventually if someone wants to get it done, I mean, to infiltrate your network from the state-sponsored actor, it will be, but it just will take more time. And you should, defense is a tough job. You should just, going through and through and through. Yeah.
This is terrific stuff. And again, I'll ask one more question. So, state-sponsored hackers, they will be attacking SMEs. Is that correct? Because they will see that as the lifeblood of that nation. So all SMEs should be looking out for this kind of thing. Does that sound accurate, or am I just selling the cybersecurity industry there?
I think all SMEs in terms of a critical, how would say, a persona in the enterprise, okay, definitely should be aware of that they will be targeted from someone. Okay, we have an examples of IT people of the enterprise are targeted by state-sponsored actor to get their initials, credentials, and get into the network, use their credentials from remote or any other means. So IT expert, C-level executives, they have, all people with the more than average, privileges should be aware that they will definitely be targeted by, whether it's cyber criminals or state-sponsored actors. Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Fantastic stuff, Michael. Thank you for that.
No, thank you.
My
And
pleasure.
I'm really interested to find out more about what personally led for you to go from public to private. Why did you kind of leave that side of cybersecurity to go into your role at Radiflow?
So actually, I mean, with my retirement, so I looked for a place to implement my skills and to actually learn more stuff. I mean, more in the private sector, to be a vendor, not the guy who actually acquires and procures the products, but actually build it. So and the OT cybersecurity domain is very exciting domain, and it's actually lag behind the IT, traditional IT. Therefore, I think that in terms of on behalf of all good or whatever, maybe it's a very high level expression, but we should be care about our critical infrastructure. And I think the protection and defense of our power facilities, water management, and critical manufacturing, I think that we as a society should invest in. And I think that last years we're doing very good job. It's not enough, of course. We should invest more. I mean, all of us. But it's very, very exciting, and I'm very pleased to be here.
Fantastic, thank you.
Fantastic.
And going generally now into your, I suppose, your day-to-day, the work that you do with Radiflow. It's a very broad question. We touched on it kind of briefly with textbook example being phishing emails and dodgy passwords. But what are the most common kind of cybersecurity risks that you see that your clients are unwittingly?
So this is actually, as I mentioned, in OT industry, industrial facilities and infrastructure, we are observing a few common threats or a few common vulnerabilities that can be exploited and by malicious actors, or let's say so. So first of all, we see a mix of IT and OT environments, which actually this interconnectivity creates new threats. And as probably you mentioned before, so the hype of getting to the out to the cloud to enjoy all the stuff that AI and computing power that we have out there causes these customers, these manufacturing enterprises and critical infrastructure go outside and creates new attack surface. So actually this makes, and remember, these legacy environments are not built yesterday, they're built, decades ago. So they're not built with some kind of security state of mind from the beginning. Right now, vendors are coming and getting better and better, but eventually this is very difficult to replace it. So this is the first one. The second one is, as I mentioned, for example, we have distributed infrastructure. Water management, water pumps, and the substations, power substations, the small SMBs, plants. They, in terms of connectivity, they have, most of them are unmanned sometimes. So they have open connection, and sometimes these connections are not protected through the internet connectivity to their headquarters. So malicious actors, actually, we know they're scanning the internet, trying to find the vulnerabilities, and these default configuration devices, and speaking of the passwords and weak passwords, they're trying to exploit these from the outside and getting inside and disrupt and these infrastructures. So that kind of stuff, also using weak authentication and mass of all remote protocols, and using not necessarily dedicated devices to connect to this critical infrastructure, but using their own by some technician, which probably he has his laptop, with some kind of malware, maybe getting it through all the defenses by just plugging in into critical infrastructure. So there are some of common risks that we are facing in our experience, in our implementation into this. And so we are trying to detect, to monitor, and eventually to give the tools to the relevant stakeholders, to cybersecurity experts, to mitigate these risks.
It's really interesting, especially when you talk about how OT is kind of opening up another avenue for these risks. It's especially
Exactly.
these legacy environments. So what I suppose from that perspective, from specifically the OT perspective, what are the key components of a secure cybersecurity strategy for businesses?
So I think the start should be in thinking and establishing the policy on OT state. So to see, so we have, as I mentioned, IT is very common. So information security programs and strategy, and you have stakeholders to be accountable and responsible. In OT is it that case? So we're trying to start, to establish OT security policy, strategy, define the frameworks you want. We have an IS2 directive coming in Europe. We have a lot of initiative in the United States coming from the government. What is your framework you should be able to adopt according to your vertical, to your profile of your organization? And this component. So afterwards, you should perform the as we believe, a data-driven risk assessment. So not just get, okay, my risk are this and this, but something more, be more quantifiable and more based on data that you have in your environment. And after that, you have to get the decision makers, okay, to get your plan, to implement your strategy as you planned, get the all stakeholders on board, because one of the gaps that we are observing actually is the IT OT, a little bit lack of cooperation sometimes. So so these guys, which are the guys which are responsible for cybersecurity, and engineers, OT automation engineers, which are actually responsible for functionality and resilience of the facility, factory, or manufacturing enterprise, they should actually get their hands together to bring this strategy to the actual implementation. And that's a challenge in terms of resources, timeframes, the scale, and the current situation. Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Michael, could I ask? You mentioned stakeholders there and decision makers. When you're speaking to CTOs and CSOs and the technical people, I'm sure that it's an easy conversation. Are there any bosses that think cybersecurity is a waste of time anymore, or are they gone? Are all the bosses agreed that cybersecurity is essential?
So I think so. A majority of cases they agree, and I think we should provide as a cybersecurity officers, and we are helping them in that terms. So by providing our consulting services to justify their expenditure and to justify this plan, because you can say I need $1 million for implement OT strategy, but what is your tolerable risk? What is the business impact? So you should talk not as a technological guy in terms of, okay, we should implement that and that stuff, these firewalls, these secure remote access or whatever, or continuous monitoring, but you should talk in terms of, okay, the business impact of disruption of this specific zone in your, I don't know, food processing enterprise will be devastating, and it will cost you such and such. Therefore, you should implement here first and that system afterwards. So you should, in that kind of plan, you get these executives on board because they understand, the business impact and not just the, tech stuff you're going and moving around.
It's really interesting. I suppose from the kind of very much the other end of the spectrum, you talk about kind of risk assessments. How do you advise your clients to embed those within their company culture so that people from kind of the full range of seniority levels adhere to them?
So from our perspective, we believe in continuous risk assessment and continuous monitoring and providing every period of time to the stakeholders what changes because as I mentioned, threat landscape is constantly changing, and also as well as your systems. Not much as IT, but eventually is also OT. And you should reflect to your stakeholders these changes and what is the risk of the cyber risk. What's changed by introducing a new vendor, new system, or a new state-sponsored actor group that just appeared on the scene, or ransomware group, and trying to attack your peers in the same country or same vertical. So that's approach we believe to in this approach and to be continuous until then. But it's maturity of each of the customers, potential customers, but definitely a risk assessment should be kind of it's bread and butter of the approach of the cybersecurity, and it should be data driven and as much automatic as they can. Okay, not just manual, because manual it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of as well money, and if you're going to do it manually, it will be very hard to actually do it continuously as well. So this kind of automatic response approach and data-driven approach, and do it from time to time and reflect it to your seniors. I think this is the that's approach we are trying to push to our customers, to our audience, and to all the relevant partners.
It's really interesting, especially like the kind of data-driven approach. It's because you must have seen over the last 2 years, you must have seen so much change in the kind of the services that you provide as technologies expand and develop. What for you personally has been the kind of the biggest change, I suppose, in your role or Radiflow's services generally?
Or the biggest hack you've been involved in?
No. So I think the maturity of the customers, or what we are facing, during last 2 years, I think it's definitely the understanding that we should take care of OT cybersecurity. And we have seen a lot of also large companies trying to get into this area, and take which these companies which have been responsible for the IT side of the house, they get their responsibility to the OT as well. So a lot of non-regulated industries, because it's not a regulated industry, they have to do it. I mean, from government regulations, whether it's in UK and other countries, they have to do it. The point is that also manufacturing, which not necessarily has real regulation, they also understand the threat and the necessity of taking measures. And they just go and pushing forward for risk assessment, for business understanding, for de-risking, like they said, the environment within OT, and started also the project for a more large infrastructure project to be capable to implement this, because not every infrastructure that they have in place will be able to get all these security elements to secure their production processes. So I think this is kind of change that we are facing, and we started facing within premises, okay, as a start, and I think the later years we have following, we will see. I think actually this change also coming into the interfaces to the cloud as well. So that's I think the major change, that they're going from just implementing something very basic into more risk assessment, understanding what's going on, and taking this one step forward.
Amazing, thank you. No, it's really interesting. The cloud technologies have clearly, especially, had a huge impact. Yeah, George,
could I ask one question? Yeah, could I ask Michael? Could I ask? You mentioned there about ransomware groups, and you were saying about new groups arriving on the scene. How many groups do you think there are out there? So groups of people being paid by criminal bosses or by a government to do bad things. Is there a dozen? Are there dozens? Are there hundreds? Are there thousands? What do you think?
So I can't tell you actually the number, of course, and but I think there are definitely tens, very powerful groups there from just from my experience, like it's more than intuition, I would say. So it's not just a hunch, and definitely tens. And I think from state sponsor perspective, I don't think it's a more. Some groups are also kind of disguising themselves as a ransom, but it's actually not really ransomware, but more kind of CNA, computer network attack groups or disruption groups that are trying to conduct some false flag operation to say, okay, this is ransomware, but actually we are planning to send your kind of message or disrupt your infrastructure. So this is also a kind of, whether it's cyber criminals or not. Okay, so there are, companies which are dealing with threat intelligence, and this is their, bread and butter. But I think we're definitely facing more and more, because it's probably it's a profitable business, and go ahead, George.
No, I guess that's kind of where we get to, isn't it? It's a profitable business. So if it's paying them, we're going to see more and more of these. And if it's state-sponsored, it means that taxpayers or the government coffers are paying for them anyway. But the private sector hackers, let's say, it's a profitable business for them. So you're going to see more and more of those groups. Is that right?
I'm not sure it's more and more, but I think we have enough weak weak spots in our industry, in manufacturing, or even building management systems and other medium and more and large enterprises, which actually these are low-hanging fruits for these ransomware actors. So actually it doesn't probably cost them too much to attack, and in terms of cost and efficiency, I would say from their perspective, for cyber criminals, it's a good job. So even if it's it's like in a phishing, it's you're sending 1 million emails or 1,000 emails. You are not building for 1,000 people to click, but it's enough. 1% is a percentage is enough. Yeah, in order to get into it. So so I think if you're taking taking off some food processing or I don't know pipeline, and you're causing enough damage, and if someone is thinking I'm paying $1 million just to take my system back, I think this is it can be profitable.
It's profitable.
I have read, I think, that some Vanuatu government, small island in Pacific, they're now just a few weeks are handling this kind of incident for disrupting all government systems. It's very challenging for them. So it's a small country, it's a kind of island, no actual support, and they're internet disconnected, and people are struggling. So yes,
this is fascinating stuff. It really is. But Joe's over to you.
No, it's fascinating. I know we had a few stories about some cybersecurity breaches in the UK government very recently as well.
Ransomware in the NHS is probably the big one in the UK, isn't it? I mean, that's the one that hits the headlines quite often.
No, it's fantastic, and thank you so much for sharing your insights, Michael. We really appreciate you joining us today. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much, guys. My pleasure.
No, thank you. So we're going now to an ad break. But afterwards, still to come, we'll be sharing the results of this episode's poll and diving deeper, very on brand, into the latest cybersecurity headlines in the news from the perspective of AI and technology magazines. So back in a couple of minutes, time to put the kettle on and grab a biscuit. See you in a sec.
Commander or watch officer at sea or an analyst in the Pentagon will be able to make better, faster, more effective decisions. My name is Brett Vaughn. I'm the U.S. Navy Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer. AI today is predominantly used in two significant areas. One is AI that fuels or enables some level of autonomy in an unmanned system. The second area where you find most applications in the Navy are decision aids. that really help somebody make better decisions faster or effectively. That could be a watch officer on the bridge of a ship in the middle of the ocean, could be a financial analyst in the Pentagon. Yeah, I think that a lot of the challenges that we face that we need to overcome are technological and cultural. Technology side of it is rather straightforward in many cases, but the larger percentage degree is on the cultural or organizational and practice side for us. We're now in a digital age, in a digital era. We recognize that, where software drives just about everything. Being digital is paramount, whether that's writing requirements, how we transmit those requirements, how we develop AI-related technologies, how we hand those technologies off to a user or warfighter, and how we watch those technologies operate in the field.
Hi everyone, welcome back. I've had to turn the light on. I forget how quickly it's getting dark at the moment. So taking inspiration from this episode's speaker, we wanted to share our news roundup through a cybersecurity lens. So George, why don't you kick us off with the latest news from AI Magazine?
We do.
Oh.
We can do that, although I don't think that there's a cybersecurity angle on this one, Joe. So I think we're just going to have to go with this one anyway. And I do hope that I'm still here. So OpenAI, the new Chat GPT, it is spooky. It is. The internet is talking about it. It is making plausible stories and responding in very, very detailed ways to quite open questions. But is it going to be useful? I've read more than a few opinions from some tech guys that say that the only thing that ChatGPT has mastered is the ability to BS. Frankly, to come up with plausible stuff that sounds like it makes sense. But if you dig a little deeper, it's just all front. It sounds terrific. So we've created AI politicians or rubbish middle managers who are all talk and no trousers. That's what it seems to be. I saw one coder this week who used the AI to compose his weekly email to Elon Musk. He didn't do a thing. It said, what should I say to Elon this week? And it gave him all the things that was required. So check out ChatGPT. This is based on version 3.5. Version 4 is coming next year. And if the reaction last week is anything to go by, next year is going to be a big year for AI getting into the mainstream headlines, I think.
Fantastic, really interesting. It's following on, I suppose it kind of, in my mind, it links to the AI art depictions and the image generation. It's really interesting to see, you know, where it's going and where the capabilities start and end for these technologies at the moment. So what do you have to share from the latest edition of Technology Magazine?
Yeah, so in Technology Magazine, so this week we saw a report from Ernst & Young, and this shows that tech leaders, they're an optimistic bunch, despite the fact that there's a looming recession. 74% of technology leaders said that they had already seen signs of recession. I don't think that's surprising. So nearly 3/4 are saying the recession is with us. But an incredible 61% think a recession will have a positive impact on their business. Yeah, so that's they accept the recession's here, and they say, bring it on. I'm ready for my recession. I want my recession workout. This is what they seem to be saying. Half of them are saying that they plan to activate their growth plans within the next 2 years or sooner, which I guess means that they are going to be spending money to battle this recession. And retaining great talent is still a priority. This shows up in the survey and shows up time and again in the stories that we're researching at Technology and AI Magazine. 90% of business leaders in the tech industry say they're investing in new talent to remain competitive amid the threat of a recession. The recession is with us. This is what they're saying. There's a lot more in that report, and I'd urge viewers to go and take a look at that website, and take a look at that. But I'm stunned by the 61% who are saying recession, yeah, bring it on. That's very bullish. Sounds very bullish. Bullish. Yeah, bullish. That's the word that they're using, by the way.
Okay, I thought that was one of yours. No, it's fantastic.
No, that wasn't my word.
It's
Bullish is their word, but it does sound very similar. Yes. Yes.
Yeah, no, yeah, really, really interesting report, and very surprising, as you say, in a lot of key ways. So yeah, really interesting. And to conclude this month's show, we want to take a look at the results of the poll. So George, back to you. How did it go? What were the results?
Let's do it. I hope I'm still with you. I'm coming and going, but I think I'm still with you guys. And so we asked, what tech-enabled viewing experiences would you be most interested in seeing from future World Cups? And the answers that the options that we gave were metaverse viewing, augmented reality, or just faster. And the winner is augmented reality with 45%. Coming second is metaverse viewing with 35%. So 35% of people would like to go into the metaverse and see the World Cup, which would be happening outside of the metaverse, but hey ho. 40% say augmented reality. That's quite cool. Only 20% just want it faster. That's surprising me. You can't have too much speed. More speed. But yeah, AR wins the day that time.
I'm really surprised by that. That was the one I personally had pegged as the least popular. I thought the faster speeds are ones people are already
as the loser, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, and the metaverse is it's always a mixed bag, isn't it, with the metaverse, whether people are interested in investing in it and paying for that experience, or whether they kind of don't see the, I
don't think people know what it is yet.
No, it's really interesting. Yeah, I'm metaverse stadiums for the next World Cup would be there was a lot of talk about exclusive metaverse avatar merch, and a lot of designers getting on board with that concept. So it'd be interesting to see whether football teams start getting on board that as well. You can see the appeal and the profit there. So yeah, really interesting. What about you, George? Were you surprised? What did you have pegged as a winner?
I'm coming and going again, I think, here, Jose, but I thought metaverse viewing was going to win. I'd always take more speed, I think. You just get it faster, get more bandwidth in.
Yeah, it's I'm intrigued by that. So thank you all. Okay, folks, I guess that's all we've got time for this episode. So we hope you enjoyed the show, and make sure you tune again next month when we'll be back. So thank you for interacting with us if you're watching live, and for everyone that took part in the poll. And remember, we've also got this show available to watch on demand if you missed any bits of it. So it'll be on YouTube shortly. Please do share it with anyone you think would be interested. And also is to thank George, to Ernie, to our guest Michael, and the rest of the video production team that were involved. So this has been a BizClik production, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.